What would have to happen for the SEC to miss the playoff this year? And who from which conferences would realistically fill the void? As you know, or you should know by now, this is a total disaster scenario because it's never happened before. So no one really knows what this world would look like, but yet Bryce is asking us, just use your imagination. If the SEC were to miss out on the playoff entirely, how would that happen? So I was thinking to myself, what kind of scenario would I have to put together? Well, I came up with one, friends. This is not a prediction, but I did come up with one. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, Alabama and Georgia already have a loss going into November. Let's say Bama gets upset at Arkansas. Let's say Georgia loses to Oregon or South Carolina or someone like that. So let's say they both have a loss, okay? And then they're rolling merrily along, and we get into November, and let's say there's just a bunch of churn. There's a bunch of cannibalism going on in the SEC this year. So there's really no undefeated team. There's no perfect team. Georgia and Bama, they are the best of the bunches in the respective divisions, but they themselves are not unscathed. Then we get to November, okay? So let's say we get into rivalry week, and Bama's already got the West locked up, but they lose to Auburn. So they are 10-2, but they're the Western Division champions anyway. And let's say Georgia wins the East at 11-1, and they go to Atlanta, and so you got 11-1 Georgia versus 10-2 Bama. Then let's say Bama beats Georgia, okay? So you've got a couple of 10-2 teams there. The conference champ, Alabama, is 11-2, I guess, because they just won the conference. And then let's say there's no other reasonable candidate because there was a lot of churn in the SEC that year. So the best you got is an 11-2 Alabama. Then let's say you have an undefeated Ohio State. You have an undefeated ACC champ. Let's say Texas or Oklahoma were to be undefeated or one-loss Big 12 champs. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, either Oregon or Utah or USC came out of the Pac-12 undefeated, Pac-12 champ. Okay, I just gave you a scenario where if all those things were to happen, we could technically, and I mean that word very, very hesitantly, we could technically live in a world where no SEC team makes the playoff. But you and I both know that even if all that were to happen, and even if Bama were to be 11-2, people would still look at an SEC less playoff, and they may love it because of the novelty aspect, but they would also look at it and say, are we really finding out who the best team in college football is if the best team from the best conference isn't in the college football playoff? Some people would say that, not everyone. Several others around here would say, who in the world cares? Let them fend for themselves. You know, that's the conference, mind you, that's talking about creating their own playoff, so maybe we just beat them to the punch. Maybe we had our own playoff out here without the SEC. Bryce, it's fun to talk about. I don't know what kind of odds I would put on it. I have not called our friends over at Caesar Sportsbook and asked, what are the odds? Will an SEC team make the playoff, yes or no? But that no has to have some serious plus juice behind it for me to even entertain it. So that's an interesting question to lead us off.